I always feel like you look like Theon a little bit, you know?
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the underground. Posted up on the OTC Fantasy YouTube channel and on your favorite audio platforms. I am Theon Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands, hosting and Westeros coasting.
Yes!
I do not know what your algorithm is like, but my shit is full of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings memes all the time. So trust me, there's a lane. There's a lane. There's fantasy football and Lord of the Rings is like almost concentric circles. Sorry, you guys are so fucking cool.
I thought you were getting laid, but apparently not.
Nerd.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
Oh my god, I fucking hate you guys. I'm actually questioning you guys. I think like you need to hand in your nerd bona fides, right? You can't sit here and talk about stats and then not be into Lord of the Rings. Fuck off.
You know where I get my nerd ticket from, Joe? Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, so you can fucking beat it, all right?
It's almost like Game of Thrones doesn't even hit nearly as hard without the Lord of the Rings background, right? Where it's a clear battle of good and evil in Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones flipped the genre on its head by making it all gray.
I think what you're trying to say here is Lord of the Rings walked so that Game of Thrones could.
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the underground. Posted up on the OTC Fantasy YouTube channel and on your favorite audio platforms. Dynasty Underground is back in your life. I am Trav, aka Lord of the Iron Islands, hosting and Westeros coasting for you this evening. And with me, of course, are the usual suspects of the Baratheon clan, the wise man, Jax Falcone. How are you today, Lord?
Yeah, man. I'm not sure what made it onto that cold open, but I'm pretty sure I know the topics, player.
Yeah. We had a good time before the show today, is what Jax is saying.
Sir.
And on the other side of me is one Joe Quavius Kuvatakis. We decided of the Northern Reed family, maybe like a Howland Reed type. Joe, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. You know, I believe the Reeds pray to the old gods, not the seven, but whatever gods they were praying to in that prayer circle for Ashton Jeanty, I am grateful.
Yeah. The seer, maybe he saw into the future, and maybe it's a successful season for your Raiders and Ashton Jeanty, Joe.
I love this.
Of course,
I love this. This is really good.
It's good. Yeah, we started off hot today for sure. Make sure you're subscribed to that channel. Go check us out at otcffb.com as well. The website is doing great. People have seemed to love it, and there is no more efficient way to manage your dynasty and your redraft teams because it is the season. So go check it out there. You'll find our 2026 rankings there, our dynasty rankings there, some articles, and then all of the tools that help you reimagine your fantasy football experience. So love seeing everybody checking that out over there. And we have got an interesting show, fellas. We're going to talk about some of this news. Joe, you alluded to the Jeanty injury. There's a bunch of other stuff that we got to talk about. And then we're going to talk, as the show that talks about being ready to be wrong, gentlemen, we're going to talk about things that we're afraid to be wrong about. So while we're ready to be wrong, it doesn't mean that we can't be a little bit scared to be wrong, because we do like to be right. We're a little bit shook, you know what I'm saying? So that's going to be a fun little segment brought to you by Joe, who actually brought that one up. So thank you for adding that to the sheet. But fellas, we're going to start with some of this news. And there's a new trend that's kind of sweeping the NFL. And I don't think that everybody's caught on to it, boys. We haven't seen too many instances of it yet. And I bet there's cases that we haven't yet seen come up and we will see over the next few years potentially. And Dynasty Underground is the only place where you can find an edge in fantasy football like this. The new trend, boys. NFL owners are getting very lonely. We had your boy Rob Kraft trying to get a rub and tug.
Yep.
Just an old,
What do you mean trying?
just an old dude getting him off fucking Rezub into Zug. You know what I'm saying?
He would get him all the time. I mean, he was very successful at getting those
Yes,
things.
he was. And now we have one Jed York of the 49ers making a trip down from the substation to a place called East Palestine, Ohio, gentlemen.
Wow.
Involved in a little sting operation I read, where he went on one of these adult websites and he tried to solicit himself a $160 good time. And it was actually
140. Just to be clear, it was $140.
I saw conflicting. I saw that the cops seized $160 from him. So I was going with the higher amount just because,
maybe that was like going to be the tip. Maybe that was going to be the tip.
Right. Yeah. Well, apparently he
Nothing
wasn't.
but the tip.
Apparently the same thing I read, that he didn't want to pay the extra 20 to go unprotected. So I'm not sure if he's tipping that extra 20, fellas, but yeah, not really any fantasy football implications here. And there are plenty of terrible places that we could go with that. But we thought that was kind of a wild story this week, taking over all of the fantasy kind of injuries that we're seeing, to be honest with you. What did you guys think of yet another NFL owner thinking from within his
Joe,
pants?
this is your lane.
Joe,
this is your lane.
You're kind of the vibes and narrative guy, Joe. Get it?
I actually disagree that there are no fantasy implications.
Okay, spin that web, sir, please.
I'm not sure. I would just say overall, it's not good, right? When half the players on the Niners are hurt because of this substation, that he refuses to like move their practice facility. I mean, to his credit, he's not spending a lot of money. Maybe he is saving up to move their practice facility away from the substation, but it's just not. It's not the way storybook endings begin, right? I don't imagine the 49ers winning a Super Bowl and Jed York going up there and taking the Lombardi trophy from Roger Goodell and saying anything at all. This guy has to go into hiding. He needs not to mention whatever personal conduct policy. I don't know. I don't know what rules come into play here, but anyways, this guy needs to go away for the good of the team, for the good of his family. Just disappear for a very long time, right?
I think what it shows you though is
send him north of the wall.
Some of you guys who think right now, God, if only I had some money, I'd get laid. Still, you wouldn't. Apparently, you still need to spend $140 on an East Palestine, Ohio hooker.
Trailer park hooker.
Yeah.
Let's
just the reality.
Not let that go unsaid.
I did also read that him and his wife filed for divorce about 15 months ago. So, I mean, it's just a lonely dude who's trying to get a little love slack that we could cut him, boys, or none of that.
Yep. No, I cut him a ton of slack. I mean, I don't have a problem with what he's doing, but I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's the dumbest possible thing you can do. I'm gonna say something. I've never got a prostitute in my life. I also am the same guy who would say I have nothing against it. I have nothing against it.
It is what it is.
So I don't know. I don't really give a shit. But at the same time, if I were the owner of this fucking franchise, I'd be very sure not to do that.
Just feel like do it a classy way, right? Like you could afford a really nice one that'll come out to dinner with you.
Than that.
Yes.
Yeah. Spend a few $1,000 and just do it the right way. Nobody will judge you.
You ask around other rich guys. I mean, but that's how they got in trouble on this other thing here. You know what I mean? So just saying.
This is just
tripwires all over the place.
He did end up spending a couple thousand because it was $5,000 bail and like $1,160 fine that he had to pay. So probably $1,000 fine, and they seized the $160 that he took with him. So come on, Jed.
Expensive mistake.
Just pay up is all I'm saying. Pay up. Yeah. You got the money. Right?
Yeah.
Stimulate the economy.
You can afford to be more discreet than that for sure. Okay, let's dive into
trickle down economics. My ass.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to get us into some real fantasy implication stuff, because however much I love that web you spun, Joe, I doubt it has any real impact on the Niners team this year. We got to go to Cleveland.
You want to talk Jeanty real quick?
I actually do want to talk about wait real quick.
Okay,
go ahead.
There's some impact. I mean, Brandon Ayuk probably having one of the best days ever.
He was rejoicing on all of that too. The memes that were on social media about him were incredible. It was like a picture of the prostitute, and it was him with a wig on.
I would just like to say nothing Brandon Ayuk did was as despicable as Jed York's behavior. Absolutely nothing. All the weird videos, all the cars, every stupid thing he did online pales in comparison to a trailer park hooker in East Palestine. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's true.
Reinstate Brandon Ayuk. Pay that man.
Yes.
If I could bite a rhyme from the Undrafted, is trailer park hooker in East Palestine a good episode title or what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, boys. Lots of fun and games happening here. This one, actually, Jax, we are going to get to Jeanty. I want to get this one out of the way too, because we've already kind of evaluated it, but it was just more some wild statements that happened this week, and then some subsequent boneheaded organizational moves as well. And that would be around one Deshaun Watson and this press conference that he had, where he was talking about how the fans were booing him. He thinks it's only personal and not about on the field stuff. And there's been much talk about how it's definitely also because of the on field stuff, which we're seeing videos of that playing out in practice, guys. And so I don't dispute that there is on field implications here as well. The biggest thing that I heard from his conversation, though, that I tweeted about was that he said he doesn't regret anything in his life. And we were reacting about that in the chat, boys, and thought that it's just wild how tone deaf this guy is to what's actually happening around him. And then, guys, we see that the next day, I think the Browns name him as the starting quarterback for their team. And we expected this to happen, but I think comments about the fan base might be able to derail something like that, but clearly not for the old Brownies, Joe. So what did you think of the comments? What do you think about how long he actually has as the starter for the Cleveland Browns? And should we be getting ready for Shedeur Sanders?
Well, I mean, like, I regret what I ate for lunch today, right? I have regrets every single day. I mean, he walked the statement back the next day, so he regretted that statement. So it's just like such a stupid bullshit thing to say, right? I don't even know what where he was coming from. It's impossible to get inside a sociopath like that's head, right? But he's clearly one of those, probably, allegedly.
Right. Right.
Basically, right. Yeah. All that being said, we talked about a couple weeks ago how for the Vikings, it only makes sense to start Kyler Murray, even if he wasn't actually winning the quarterback competition, because then they've got somewhere to turn to, which happens to be the best outcome for the franchise. I kind of think it's the same thing for the Browns, although I think both of these trains are headed off a cliff, and whatever other options they have, they're all headed in the same direction, which is like a 2 or 3 win season. And Lord knows that's probably what they want to do, to just go and get the best quarterback available to them next year. So it really, in one sense, doesn't matter who they start at quarterback because they're both so bad. But if there were a better way to go about it, like, you wouldn't want to have to go to Deshaun Watson mid-season after Shedeur falls on his face. When you go to Shedeur, it's better. But there's just like, they could have banished Deshaun Watson, just told him, hey, you're paid, you're still on the team, whatever, contract situations aside, consider yourself part of the team and just stay in the fucking locker room for 17 games. And we'll just let Shedeur and Gabriel and Green just, get their starts and not deal with you and not make our fans absolutely hate us. I think maybe that would have been the better route, because they still would have won the same amount of games, which is like, again, I think 3-win upside. So far be it from me to judge these clearly morally upstanding citizens that are NFL owners.
Jack?
Look, if you were paying someone $250 million, you'd want more than a locker room ornament out of it too. But that's a horse of a different color. Listen, let's talk about this, because we did our startup and we talked about on this program how we thought, where was he going to be drafted? Was he a value? And it turns out that I was not the highest bidder on Deshaun Watson. I did notice something. I'm sure everybody else is noticing this if you're in startups too, but both of our startups, we're in 2 of them. We're kind of doing another one right now as well. But the Underground League, in the 10th round, there was a couple of quarterbacks selected. The last 3 quarterbacks selected were Ty Simpson, Carson Beck, and Daniel Jones. After that, there was actually 3 rounds of no quarterback taken. There's sort of a tier after that where then it was, the likes of Tua and Geno Smith. I'm just throwing those names out. Those weren't the next 2 guys taken, but there's a sort of step down and definitely a huge tier break, I would say, from guys that either have a future potentially, or are like locked in starters and less than 40 years old. You know what I mean? Like Geno and Aaron Rodgers and some of these guys. And, so long story short is in that area, I did end up taking Michael Penix. Then it went Aaron Rodgers. Then it went Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson, Drew Alar went right there. But Deshaun Watson went ahead of Tua, Shador, and the rest of them. I guess after that, there's not much.
Cousins.
But I was able to get Shador after Deshaun, and I would have preferred Shador. Right. And so, I think our dialogue on this show where I was saying, Deshaun as some sort of a value was because he was so far down. I think it was like 19th round ADP or something. I'm like, boy, at some point or another, he's got to move up. Well, 16th round ahead of Shador. I think that's about as high as I could imagine taking him because of all the things that you've mentioned. And we still think he might actually suck, which is also kind of crazy because he should still just kind of be good at this. But I don't think he's going to be good at it somehow or another. It's crazy. But anyway, thought I'd mention that. I was not the high bidder.
No,
on, Deshaun Watson.
That's good. You actually hedged some serious quarterback bets with 3 in a row. You went Penix, Shador, and JJ McCarthy back to back, just to maybe one of them hits kind of thing. So I kind of like that strategy.
Precisely.
Filling out the depth chart there. I think with Shador, if you're a bag holder, like you're hoping that entry into the starting quarterback job comes maybe sooner rather than later. And you hope that he has a couple of games where he plays decent, or hopefully Watson was so bad that Shador makes it look like a serviceable offense that you can flip Shador Sanders, right, boys? And now, like, what do we think ceiling that we could get for Shador is in that situation? Do you think a second could be had after maybe a couple of serviceable games?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, when you said ceiling, I was thinking quarterback 24 or something like that. It's kind of like, what? And then when you asked about look, if he's quarterback 24, 23 in points per game, and he's just sort of, hey, he's out there doing some stuff, it's not great. It's not bad. It's, 2 touchdowns here and there, and 200 and something 200-ish yards a game, right? Not a bunch of picks and just sort of steady as she goes type of play. If that's what happens, I would think that you could certainly get a way future first, like a 29 or 28 potentially, or a 27 second plus. So I think that's about the value of a starter who's young, who you never know if he can grow into a little bit something more. But any starter in the top 24 is worth something, ain't he?
Yeah. If he wins some games and takes them out of contention for like a top 5 pick or what have you, then you can probably get, I would say, a second for him. I think the jury is in on Shador. I think, he was in EPA per play was like the second worst quarterback last season.
It was bad.
And obviously the weapons got better. Hopefully Monken makes the offense better, and maybe he's a little bit better as a result. He looked pretty good in the last preseason game. So it's not out of the question. It's early enough for him to turn his career around, but I think like with success, the high end is probably a second round pick. I can't imagine anybody paying more than that, and I sure as hell wouldn't. I sold all my Shador shares last year as soon as he was playing. Basically, it's just like, all right, get off this investment right freaking now.
Nice. Yeah, I just wanted to check in on that kind of peak value you could be looking for on the positive Shador outcome. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's go to Joe's Las Vegas Raiders, because we had a bit of a scare this week, boys, with Ashton Jeanty. First, it was called a high ankle sprain. Then it was backtracked to say maybe it was a little bit lower. Don't know if mid ankle sprain is a thing, but maybe we just meet in the middle. I'm not really sure. But the latest report that I read said that it might be a little bit lower and that he still has a chance to play in week 1. I'm not necessarily saying this is going to fluctuate Jeanty's value, boys, because I think we think he is in that upper echelon of running backs. But the swing that we have seen on Mike Washington over the last couple of days is crazy in the Dynasty streets. I saw an Underdog post that said over like a 24-hour period there when that news was super murky, they had somebody take Mike Washington as early as 303, and Ashton Jeanty in one draft went as late as 1111. And that is absolutely free money to get Jeanty there if we think that he could be starting week 1 in this season.
How can 11 people pass on Jeanty 10 times?
That's
crazy.
Insane. That's insane. Yeah. And I actually saw a post just before the show and I retweeted it with my own take on it, where somebody said that they have been buying Mike Washington for seconds wherever they can because of Clint Kubiak's previous 2-back system. I just don't see Mike Washington getting up to that second round value myself. So I retweeted saying that I think if I'm getting that second for Mike Washington, I'm taking it all day. What do you
27 second especially?
What do you guys think about the steam on Mike Washington? Because he does look like a pretty solid backup, but I think a 27 second is for me a guy who I'm predicting to be a starter for my roster within the next couple of years, and I don't think we can afford that to Mike Washington yet. Joe?
Well, this could basically parlay into our topic for tonight, which is what are you afraid you're wrong about, right? And I think we were all a pretty full fade on Mike Washington because he didn't have the college production to back this athleticism. And, you know, at certain positions like running back, I think you're willing to be more forgiving for super athletic running backs who lacked production. But we've just gotten burned by that so many times that, you know, we have over time learned the lesson to actually not bank on those guys. And you just need to see more than what he showed in college after transferring with a college teammate who was in this NFL draft who produced better than him while they were in school at the same time together, right? So it was all kind of ridiculous in the first place. And then he just goes out and he actually performs in the preseason. He's got those 2 big long runs for touchdowns. And he got all of his believers just like circling the wagons, right? He's super excited. So when news of the Jeanty injury happened, I mean, it's almost like a price correction. It's like in the stock market, right? There are charts where you can look at the chart and you can say, this thing's going to go up. We just need a trigger, right? We need a trigger. The demand is there and people are just waiting for a sign to buy into this stock, right? And it could be some news item, right? And that's exactly what happened here. Whereas Jeanty got hurt, it was a scare. He's out for some indefinite amount of time, which might not be any time at all. But the price corrected to the place where people really wanted it to be anyways. So, I think that the market's really high on him, and I think you can get a second, and I think I would take that. But parlaying into the next point, or the next segment, I think I'm afraid that I'm wrong, and we may have overlooked a good player who is going to be in something more of a platoon than what we were envisioning, you know, a week ago.
Well, I will give you my thought of the week. So, you know, I almost said it at the top, but here's where I'm at right now. So there's a thing that you're basically talking about, which is the stock market analogy is perfect because there's an event and we have to react, right? But the reaction is how much do we react? And so I was thinking about this, like, you know, there's two schools of thought. One is take lock, right? Oh no, Mike Washington sucks. I'm not taking him no matter what. Like, that's dumb, right? So you want to be Bayesian. You want to think, okay, I want to move with the market. I'm ready to be wrong. I want to be ahead of it. I want to be right first, right? All these things that we say. But then you go, wait a minute. Is Deshaun Stribling the wide receiver 1 in this class? Wait, is that just stupid? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, maybe not, right? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm not here to say specifically Mike Washington is or isn't worth a second. Deshaun Stribling is or isn't the wide receiver 1 in this class. I'm not here to say that. What I am here to say is that is the thinking that has got to be that this is where you can take action and gain profit, right? By making bets against the overcorrection of marketplace. When you think it's the Puka Nacua thing. When I felt like Puka was real, I was making bets below market, 27, well, not 27, future second round picks, whatever that year was, the next year's second round picks, for Puka, where that was like, people are like, oh, you're crazy. That kid, is not worth that before the games ever happened. And subsequently it looked like a good bet, but it could have been a bad bet. And that's kind of the point here, is that there's so much at this time of year that you can take advantage of, that I think there's a lot of profit to be had, but everybody's a little bit afraid to be like, I ended up selling Deshaun Stribling for a 27-second. I'm an idiot. Look, he's good now. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there's that fear.
Exactly. Let's throw some numbers on this, right? Let's try and go apples to apples as much as we can. But Kubiak's offense last year in Seattle, who wanted to run the ball, and head coach wanted to run the ball maybe more than Kubiak will when he's his own head coach. They had 507 rushing attempts, and also they had an awesome defense and were in position, because they were leading so much of the season, that they're in position to run the ball. But the split was basically Ken Walker had 221 rush attempts, and Zach Charbonnet had 184 rush attempts, right? And then basically gets you to 400, and then the rest was split very sparingly amongst Halani, Velus Jones, Jacardia Wright, Cam Akers, Myles Gaskin, right? Like, just those guys all had less than a dozen. Except for Halani, who had like 22 attempts, right? So my point is, if the Raiders are going to run the ball 500 times this season, Jeanty's not getting 500 attempts, right? In a extreme circumstance, I think he'd be getting something like, 300 even seems high. 300 seems high. So, and the Raiders don't have another running back of consequence on that team. So there's a world where Washington, if he's any good and doesn't just poop the bed game one or early in the season and lose the team's trust, he could get 180 carries easily, at which point, I don't know, like maybe not a 27-second, but a second round pick for him. It's not that far fetched. So we didn't like him as a prospect, but he's actually in a good situation. Sure, he's got Jeanty ahead of him, and I think that's what kept the market off of him to this point. But the second Jeanty went down, we saw what his value became, right? We had a 5-hour glimpse into what the market wants. And I think that the market is just like chomping at the bit to, fire away on this super athletic guy. So if he's getting attempts and maybe catching some passes, then, it's not out of the question. Like, is Zach Charbonnet worth a second round pick? Healthy Zach Charbonnet? I think so.
Probably. Yeah. My counter would be that Mike Washington doesn't have necessarily the pedigree. I'm not saying he's not as talented as Charbonnet, because he doesn't have profile at all, like the pedigree, and he doesn't have the hold on that second job to where they'll really want to be jamming him in on carries like they seem to do in Seattle. And I think the other counter is kind of what you said, Joe, is where that the Raiders aren't going to be playing from ahead quite as much as the Seahawks, right? So if they're playing from behind in passing situations, I don't see them taking Jeanty off the field, right? And so I think there's kind of a flip side there where game script could state that Jeanty just needs to stay on the field because his skill set is for that. So who knows?
The lesson here, as always, is roster running backs that are deep in the depth chart, not wide receivers, because if CeeDee Lamb got hurt in the same way, we wouldn't be rushing out for Ryan Flournoy for the same sort of upside. But Mike Washington, if Jeanty gets hurt, actually does have legit upside. Yeah. And this will happen all season to whomever gets hurt. We don't like Samaje Perine or Taj Brooks, but if something happened to Chase Brown, everybody would be scrambling for one of those backs and figuring out which one it is. Mm-hmm. Are they going to sign somebody? What's going to happen? They're going to trade for somebody. It's a race. But if Jamar Chase gets hurt, nobody's making. It's just not going to be anybody. Nobody's going to be Jamar Chase. Whereas someone could get 20 carries a game behind Chase Brown, who's some off the street running back. It literally happens all the time. And so it is structural build, and just trade all of your back end wide receivers that are worthless for running backs. Just remember to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to point that this is sort of a unique circumstance because we got the sneak peek at what the market thinks of this guy, right?
Yep.
We know for a fact there are Washington truthers out there.
Yes, sir.
That are going to be willing to pay seconds, maybe even a first once you get confirmation that Jeanty's down, because that's how much they buy into the athleticism over the lack of production in college. And so
Damian Pierce fetched first round picks.
Good
so
pull.
if you missed your opportunity to sell in that 5-hour window, and I don't blame you, it was just a lovely Sunday afternoon here in NorCal. Yeah. You might have missed your chance, but now you know that when and if Jeanty does go down, you can go fetch a pretty hefty price for Mike Washington. You might be able to do it now, but anyways, my point is, we got a sneak peek, so you know what the upside in value is, and be ready to pull the trigger if and when that does happen.
Okay, so I'm going to roll off this one into our last news item before we get into our main topic with a couple of trades that you guys would love. Somebody in a 10-team Superflex half tight end premium, Mike Washington for Gunnar Helm in a 27 third. Joe, that's a trade that's a little bit up your alley. Check this one out.
In a 10-team league, I don't know. I don't know.
Washington.
Yeah. It's just the players are fun. This one, Mike Washington for Jonathan Brooks in a 27 third in a PPR.
Brooks smash. It's an incredible deal.
Great deals. Yeah, 27 seconds are happening straight up. 28 first and 28 third is on here just yesterday. So yeah, there's some shit happening out there. So if you're a believer.
The 28 first was a Jeanty owner in win now mode who thought that they just lost their star running back and panicked. Right? I would be willing to bet money that that's what that was.
Or a Mike Washington believer who was like, now's the time.
Yeah, let me pay full price.
Right. Crazy. Right.
Okay, this last one might have a little bit of meat on it as well, boys, because there's a lot of impacts all around for two teams that made a trade just yesterday. You guys, and this was wide receiver needy, trading for a wide receiver that needed a new home. The Houston Texans made a trade for Kayshon Boutte. So Kayshon Boutte has seemingly not even fallen out of favor with the New England Patriots because all reports were glowing about him. He's just kind of fallen out of their ability to give him volume with the additions of AJ Brown and Romeo Doubs. So insert Kayshon Boutte, insert Boutte. There seems like there's some sort of funny wording around there. Into the Texans.
Sure thing, Theon.
Yeah, Theon would love that. Kayshon is on the Texans, though. Jaden Higgins went down last week, and so they are picking up some of the pieces. I think there's a little bit of an indictment on Noel and Tank Dell's readiness. But Joe, I want to hear your takeaway of the Boutte trade. Talk about him and the Texans wide receivers first, and then we'll get into kind of the Patriots side of it.
Maybe they didn't like Xavier, whatever his name is, as much as we thought.
Hutchinson.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, all I know is that they paid less for Boutte than Jed York did, right? It was a backup safety.
Did you see that somewhere? Or did you just pull that one out of your noggin?
I just pulled it. It was just hanging there. Right?
Bravo, sir.
But anyways, it was like a backup safety and a 7th round pick. That's real cheap for a dude that had a pretty good season. I mean, X receivers should cost more than that. So I think it's pretty interesting, and I actually really like it for Nico Collins because now Boutte can be the sacrificial X, and they can move Nico Collins all over the formation. So this is sort of a the sleeper move here is like Nico Collins' value actually skyrocketed for the 2026 season. That's my takeaway. It is bad news for Noel. Maybe that's just not how they saw their offense. Maybe they wanted Higgins and Collins to be interchangeable and to have like this big slot or big Z or whatever. But it's probably bad news for Noel. It's definitely, Dell, I think he's just not ready yet from everything I've read and seen from even last week's episode. It seems to be pretty bearish on Dell. So I don't know. I think I'm still not super interested in Boutte as a player I'm going to be plugging into my lineups. Sure, in some deep dynasty leagues, he's going to be flex worthy, but on this offense, it just seems like a move that freed up Nico Collins, and I got way more excited about him.
Yeah, I think if your Kayshon Boutte ownership is in best ball, you felt a little bit better about it today than you did yesterday.
Sure.
But if it's not a best ball league, even though it moves the needle, it doesn't move it into the green. We talk about all the time, like, I don't know, we look at it when we draft on our site, OTCFFB, there's a thing called PAR, which is points above replacement. He doesn't get to the green. His line does not move past a replacement level wide receiver. So therefore, unless it's a super deep league, and even then I doubt it. So yeah, that's exactly right. He's just a guy. But hey, things could get a little weird there, and he could the range of outcomes is possible that he matters. Although likely that he doesn't.
It's better now than it was with the logjam
1,000%, right.
New England. And I'm looking at my 2026 rankings, boys, and I just did this kind of on the fly. Kayshon Boutte definitely doesn't come up to near where I had Jaden Higgins. I was very, very bullish on Higgins for the fact that I thought he would be moving into the slot and interchanging with Nico Collins a lot more. I think Kayshon Boutte is a lot more locked into that outside role, right? And one thing with CJ Stroud, I did a little bit of study after his second year, and his deep passing has gone way down from his rookie season. And so that's not a good thing for Boutte's upside for sure. I got Boutte in the mid 50s, as opposed to the late 30s where I had Higgins before. So interesting to see how they work him in with so little time before week 1, 2. Those are always interesting trades to me as well. So fun stuff there for the Texans. What about for the Patriots? Is there really a ton of impact? There's part of me that was already kind of planning for this. I think we're just cemented in Dobbs and AJ Brown as the 2 wide. Any increased interest in Demario Douglas or Kyle Williams though, fellas?
I think what's really interesting is if they do a Kyle Williams Dobbs on the outside and make AJ Brown sort of like a big slot target hog, that gets super interesting. I don't think they're going to do that on a full-time basis, but I think that that's going to be an interesting formation that they could use a little bit more. I don't think Dobbs is going to come off the field all that much. And so I don't think it's makes Kyle Williams playable despite his, long touchdown in the last preseason game. But Demario Douglas, he's been around long enough to know what he is and is not a fantasy impact producer. Kyle Williams, there's still a chance. It's just, again, it's kind of the same thing. It's does this enable more for AJ Brown because there's this speed element on the field than Kyle Williams, and we move Brown to more of a slot flanker role?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's still hierarchy. It's AJ Brown, probably Hunter Henry, Dobbs, neck and neck. And honestly, Ramondre and Travion are the next after that. And then some sort of wide receiver. In terms of volume, I think Kyle Williams actually will have some big plays during the season. We're like, dude, fucking Kyle Williams with a touch. He'll have a number of nice plays. I don't think he's a bad football player. I just think in the hierarchy, he's not going to earn enough targets to matter.
Right. And I was just looking at some of the slot and wide rates because my first thought was that Dobbs doesn't necessarily project as an X, but he played almost 82% out wide for the Packers last season. Kyle Williams was almost 90% out wide. So they do have some guys who can occupy that to allow, like you said, Joe, AJ Brown to be that queen chess piece that we always talk about. So interesting because when you look at AJB and Romeo Dobbs being the 2 wide receivers, it's not the most there's not a lot of speed on that offense. You know what I mean? AJ Brown can beat guys, but he's not the speed threat he was early in his career. So interesting to see how they work that and how that plays to maybe the tight ends with a little bit of Eli Raridon action. Jax, what do you think about that?
I'm getting excited.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, boys,
let's just say that Eli Raridon will not be showing up on this week's episode of Things I'm Afraid to Be Wrong About.
True that. That's good. That's good. And that's a nice segue because we are going to talk about what we're afraid to be wrong about right after this. And we are back on Dynasty Underground. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to that channel and check us out at otcffb.com. And we're getting into the meat of this episode, boys. We've had some fun thus far. And now we're going to talk about things we are afraid to be wrong about. So we talk about all the time on the show that
this is about being wrong.
Yeah. Oh, are you out?
See you
okay, yeah. See you later, dude. Yeah, you can sit this one out for sure. Yeah.
I didn't think
you gonna spectate?
What am I doing here? I'm never wrong.
You gonna spectate for me and Joe, or
yeah,
okay.
I'll officiate.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, no, that's great. Right. As the show that always preaches that we are ready to be wrong, like I said off the top, that doesn't mean that we don't like to be right. So there are things when we are taking stances that we obviously are a little bit worried about. Maybe some tea leaves further down the road tell us some things that we didn't know before. And that's what we're going to get into tonight, Joe. So since this was your topic, I'm going to let you go with the first thing that you are afraid that we're wrong about. And we'll just kind of let it ride from there, boys.
Why don't we start with the defending champs in Seattle? I think we were skeptical. All of us were kind of skeptical on Jadarian Price. And I was questioning in the pre-draft process whether or not he was actually going to be a first-round pick. He ended up being a first-round pick. I still had like a light fade on him. I took him in a couple of spots where it just absolutely made sense and it was the obvious pick to take. But I didn't like actively pursue him. And maybe this is the Hard Knocks effect, right? Where they're getting all excited about him. They're talking him up as a pass catcher. They're not playing him in preseason games. And so I'm just worried that Price is going to be way better than I thought he was. In the pre-draft process, in my film evaluation, I couldn't help but notice that his running style was very similar to a favorite of mine last season, who was Caleb Johnson, who I was just dead wrong about, right? And so I think like maybe I learned the wrong lesson in my evaluation of Caleb Johnson and where I went wrong there and misattributed to Jadarian Price, and that he actually might be good. And there's just, a lot of opportunity here in Seattle to run the ball, and I might just be missing out on an explosive running back and didn't invest heavily enough in him.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I think that I can join you there, definitely with some thoughts of maybe not being right about Jadarian. I mean, I think I faded a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I've got some more stuff in this draft class I'm definitely afraid I might be wrong about, which I'll touch on. But in terms of Jadarian Price, yeah, the opportunity is great. I guess I don't love the Zach Charbonnet shadow looming for year one playoff run. Like, even if he kind of gets you there a little bit, you're like he really needs to hit the ground running, so to speak, and really kind of, do it early. Otherwise, like if there's, he does seem to have the backfield by himself, although Emmanuel Wilson, and George Holani are there. They're not anything worth, getting too worried about if you feel like Jadarian Price is any kind of special player. And so for all those reasons, I think, yeah, it's more likely than not that he'll have some pretty big days early on. Their team is good, right? Like he could just have 88 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you'll be like, that's pretty good. Like that scores you a ton of fantasy. Like, you know what I mean? That's a 20-point day, 22-point day, whatever it is, right? So I think there's going to be days where you're like, yeah, maybe it's just a good, situation. But then what happens when Zach Charbonnet, if and when Zach Charbonnet comes back? Does that just kind of like become Ken Walker of last year? And then that's kind of still the ceiling, at least right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, Charbonnet had 12 touchdowns last season, right? And Walker had 5 during the regular season. Everybody remembers the epic playoff run and the Super Bowl MVP, but during the regular season, it wasn't that fun to own Ken Walker. He barely crossed the 1,000-yard threshold and scored 5 touchdowns. So, it was debatable, and we already talked about the carry discrepancy. It was 221 to 184. Charbonnet had 730 yards on the ground. I don't have the passing numbers in front of me, but the 12 to 5 touchdown disparity made it like it wasn't plus EV to go Walker over Charbonnet on any given week. And could that happen again? So yes, there's that looming. There's the lack of clarity because he's a rookie, and George Holani and Wilson. So
all right, Mrs. Holani.
I don't know. Huh?
All right, Mrs. Holani.
I do love me some George Holani. He's
pretty good.
I mean, he's pretty good. He's not a great rusher, but I think he did okay when we saw him last season.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
So anyways, there's plenty of reason for doubt about Price, including
Right.
his production profile. I don't think I regret the process because you just can't be investing that much in a player that doesn't have the college profile at all. And we understand why he didn't have it, but that doesn't replace having it, right?
Yeah,
But the NFL, on the other hand, told us, hey, this is a first round talent. Barely.
This guy's good. Yeah, right.
Barely.
Yeah.
So there's been trepidation about this throughout the process. Anyways, we'll leave it at that.
I think if he was pick 34, we would still be really, really excited about him. So I think the barely thing isn't too huge for me, especially being that it's a running back, right?
Exactly.
I think they also, if they really like him, they get a 5th-year option on him if they want him to, right? So there is some merit to sticking in that first round and getting him. But I will say, because Joe, at the top, you said we all were skeptical, and I was not. I was a big fan of Jadarian Price. And I was bullish on him because there is explanations for things like why he didn't catch passes in college, why he didn't get all that work in college behind Jeremiah Love. And so we talked about all that stuff, right? And I think for me, you guys are actually talking about a reverse ready to be wrong, because I am so in on Jadarian Price. I have him as my running back 21 for 2026 as in his rookie season, and part of me feels like that's a little bit low. So my ready to be wrong is that looming Zach Charbonnet, right? And the hopium that I am telling myself on this, boys, that it is very like a 15% chance probably, is that the new offensive coordinator has a bit of a different mindset maybe than Kubiak. Sure, he saw some success with it last year, but if Jadarian Price is humming, maybe Zach Charbonnet is a little bit more situational, probably does take some goal line stuff, but maybe he takes less between the carries, because I still think that Jadarian Price can be a really good pass catcher too. So that's kind of the hopium I'm telling myself as the guy who's scared to be wrong about Jadarian Price being really, really good. So that was actually a really good example to start us off with, because there's both ends of the spectrum there.
What's interesting is if he had been pick 34 and just a second round pick, and that pushed him from like the 105, 106 range to like the 109 range, I think I would have been way more in.
I don't know.
It's almost weird where it's like that, like difference in NFL draft capital. The first round pick is like very reassuring, but if his price had been just slightly cheaper in rookie drafts, I think I might have gone the other way on him.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because to me, like if he went at 34 with the Seahawks, I would have been totally fine with him exactly the same, because actually there's like, I don't have the numbers, but some of those late first round running backs don't hit, and a lot of those top of the second round guys hit. So it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, Charbonnet is a fucking guy, and he's going to have something to say when he's healthy. So that scares me.
I'm going to mention this a little later as part of my answer, but you can go after this, Trav. But I will say this. I've been trying to redo my 2026 rookie rankings. You know what I mean? Just go through and like redo them.
I know.
And let me just tell you, there are some big movers.
Oh yeah.
Up and down. And, part of that exercise was me thinking, should I overreact? How much am I overreacting to move someone? Am I just being afraid to be wrong and move someone? Or am I actually being, level-headed and not whatever, right? All that. So my question to you, and you guys can just answer one word, please. Ready? Jadarian Price in Dynasty or Kayshon Concepcion?
Yo, you know what? Well, I mean, well, no. Oh, all right.
Wow, he's fucking short-circuiting over there.
I got him.
No, you didn't because here's what I was gonna say. I've been thinking about this exact same thing. Because we have an upcoming rookie draft based on one of the startups we're doing, where we're actually still drafting picks, right?
Yes.
And so I've been thinking about this exact same thing. I think Concepcion is probably somewhere around 103, 104 right now. And Price is right after him at like 104. Like it's right there, right? So these guys both moved up to like the 103, 104. Is the way I think I see it.
And Price
or 105.
Price better serves a win now team, right? Like if you have the third pick and you're ready to be a winner, Price will serve you better than a Kayshon Concepcion. So that is a crazy exercise, Jax. I'm going to try that out myself. And you think of like the Carson Becks, the Deshaun Striblings.
So did you just pass over? I want to know who you passed over to get to him versus Concepcion, right? So, I mean, I think Tyson, we're moving Price ahead of him just on the injury concerns being validated, right?
Yes.
Have you moved him ahead of Carnell Tate?
I am so close right there. We'll see Carnell Tate and Casey Concepcion back to back in my rankings overall. So, like, for me, obviously, that's something I'm thinking about doing. And the question would be, I guess, if I moved Carnell Tate behind Concepcion, I guess I'd move him behind Jadarian Price too, which is kind of feeling weird. So,
yeah. Such a good question.
Feeling weird.
It's such a good question, and like that's why I short circuited, because it's like, whoa, we moved Concepcion way up already. I'm sure. So now it's like, is he a top 3 pick? Right?
Imagine you could go back to 3 months ago, Jax, and tell him that was the case. You would say that you're fucking crazy. Maybe not.
Well,
maybe
I'll
not,
just keep I'll keep the conversation going for you, Trav, and I'll give mine. I know it's maybe not my turn, but this one will dovetail perfectly. I'm starting to get a little afraid to be wrong about Omar Cooper being good, right? Because right now the value's lost. So now you have no value. So unfortunately, one of the bets about Omar Cooper going into the rookie drafts was, he got drafted to New York. They need wide receivers. He'll probably play in the slot right off the bat. That's pretty good. He's got a noodle-armed 40-year-old Geno Smith who probably doesn't want to throw the ball and push the ball downfield. He'll love these easy button throws to Omar Cooper. Maybe it won't be prolific, but it'll be enough to sort of tether him to hopium and opportunity and value going forward, even if he's not the player you want him to be. If he ends up being the player you want to be, great. That's a bonus and a cherry on top. Unfortunately, as of right now, we're not getting tethered to value. We're losing value, and I didn't really see that coming with Omar Cooper. So I can't wait for football to start fast enough for Omar Cooper, and hopefully he can get on the field and make some wild plays. Omar Cooper feels a little bit like, Luther Burden, in that they're, yak guys who can get some easy button stuff and some stuff manufactured for them. But if you can't get on the field, as we saw even with Luther Burden, it is difficult to make big plays from the sidelines.
Yeah, 100%. We talked about it a little bit last week too. I just mentioned because I saw that clip where he was running a route, how they run over those kind of pads and then they make their cut and then the ball's on him or whatever. It was an easy button drill and he dropped the easy button pass. And so that was just like a one moment, and I absolutely overreacted on that. But it's something that we have to start reacting to, because if we see him starting to get buried on this depth chart, especially, he's definitely behind Adonai Mitchell. And he's fighting with Isaiah Williams for that 3rd spot. So the fall has been kind of drastic, right? Usually, like, it's hard to see this big of a fall to 0 value, but I don't know. We still hold out, easy for me to say, a little bit of hope here on the Underground, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's too early. I think just selling on, and I know that's not the question, but I think like selling on Cooper right now is a gigantic mistake. And these 1st-round picks, you got to give them the full year, and you got to just, if the guys that aren't playing right away, you're banking on late season production. And 100% for sure, I don't think there's any world in which the Jets are going to be good this year. 100% for sure. If they're not good, you better bet that they're going to give Omar Cooper tons of opportunity late in the season. And assuming he doesn't fall flat on his face, if he just produces at like a baseline competency, he will hold enough value to, recapture what feels like it's been lost. This is classic. Don't overreact to preseason on a rookie wide receiver on a bad team whose situation is going to get drastically better a year from now, probably.
So we're doing this wacko draft right now, you and I, because we're crazy. And we got this thing where we're doing a startup and we're doing a rookie draft after this, which I don't know. This was Keegan's idea, so we got to just chop him up to being the crazy person. But at the end of the day, in that thing, I'm wherever I am, and the 206 was the pick. And I'm like, 206. And then I was like, what's the 206? Right? The question was, what even is the 206?
Yeah.
And then I got a really bad feeling that, how I've had Omar Cooper fall to me a bunch. I was like, what?
Omar Cooper.
So I took the 206, and what if he's the guy? I'm like, fucking can't get away from this motherfucker. You know what I mean? So Yeah, so that was the idea.
It's pretty funny because just going back to our last conversation, I picked the 103, and I was thinking to myself, all right, there's like 3 guys this could be. This is either Mendoza or it's Concepcion or it's maybe Price, right? Like, so
Right.
that's why I had already thought about it, because of this draft that we're doing forced me to do this thought experiment already. And to your point, I've had a couple picks just pass where we're in the middle of the second round in terms of pick value, or just draft who's ever available in the 12th, 13th round. It's like, yeah, I think I'll take, whatever. Let's go Jalen Coker. Right?
Yeah. It's gonna be
I think there is. I actually did a sort of realignment of my rankings. There is a little bit of a teardrop at 206, believe it or not. It actually kind of is. I mean, depending, it also is going to be depending upon
beginning of the second round. Is that what it is?
Pretty interesting to see. Right. I mean, very interesting to see where certain guys get steamed up to. Certainly one of them will be Raridon, who, of course, should be gone by the 206. But my point is, how it's just crazy, because ready? Eli Raridon at the moment, tight end 1 of the class, right?
Feels like it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like, I want him more than I want Stowers.
Yeah, for sure.
And I want him more than I want Sadiq.
Definitely.
Yeah, the vibes are not good on Sadiq either, and he's hurt.
I mean, and is that crazy? Is that a hot take? Is that hot?
No, it's not. People are still gonna keep the value on Sadiq because they don't see what's happening to his rookie year. And whatever, the athleticism, this is back to the Mike Washington conversation. Like, the athleticism just promises a player that has untouched potential. So people are still probably going to value Sadiq over him, but Raridon, I choose you.
Yeah. Can I tell you guys what I'm scared to be wrong about?
Yes, please.
And I just have to channel somebody here. Just give me 1 second.
Yep. Take your time, player.
Because I'm scared. Mama's scared.
Mama Odunze?
Mama a little bit scared. That the hit.
Let's not be talking about my realm.
The hit on my realm might not be what Mama thought that hit was going to be. And I'm not taking it out of the question. I just think if we're looking at, so those bar graphs on things where it's just like a single bar, one side's red, one side's green, and the green side spills over into the red if it's like 56% or something, right? I would just say I was very far over to the green side on Odunze. There's a lot more red in my bar, if that's not the shittiest way on the planet to describe that. Like,
oh no, that was awesome use of bar graphing.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, for people listening only, it's even better.
Yes. Yeah, there was no visual there. But
maybe like you do a graphic that shifts or something, but the people listening, you're just going to have to use your imagination.
Close your eyes during that moment.
Good luck
if you didn't close your eyes during that one, rewind it, close your eyes, then listen again.
What if there were concentric circles that got closer together?
Okay. But yeah, boys, like, there are reasons why this hit might not happen. The last year, the start of the season, we had the injury, and you can kind of see areas where he can continue to be that guy he was in the first half of last season. That foot stuff kind of scares me. He still has looked good in some of the practice and some of the preseason stuff or whatever. And so I'm still hopeful, and I'm still, that's my
Trav,
that's my son.
Question. So, I've got the question.
Okay, what's the question?
I've got the question. The question is, what's a hit to you? And I'm going to ask it this way. Like, if he were to get 120 targets, 78 catches, 982 yards, and 7 touchdowns, is that a hit? No, right? So I mean, that's kind of what.
But I mean, okay. So that's like stomachable. That's like stomachable, but it's fucking disappointing. I'm talking about a miss, like we're talking 700 yards, and he isn't kind of that touchdown getter that I think he can be. You know what I mean? Which I don't think he is. And so I think I'm still going to be okay on this one, but I got to acknowledge it.
What Jack's just described, by the way, would be like the wide receiver 25, just to be clear. Right. Yeah. It would be if you just extrapolated or just placed last year's stats on this season.
Yep.
There were 19 wide receivers that had 1,000 yards. So if you hit 982 just in today's meta with 7 touchdowns, that's actually a very solid wide receiver 3. It's the upper end of wide receiver 3. That's not the worst thing in the world. That's pretty interesting because I didn't write this one down, but I am very scared that it's the opposite, being a burden truther.
Yes.
From before day one. That like it could be Rome, because if you look at last season before Rome's injury, he was one of the best wide receivers in the league. He was taking the league by storm, and we were saying #Trav was right repeatedly through the first 4 or 5 weeks until that injury took place. So with Burden's injury now in the preseason, missing basically all of August, it seems like Rome is probably in position to do that again, sans DJ Moore plus Colston Loveland. So it's hard to figure out, right? And this has been the great debate and the great question of the Bears offense this offseason. I think the answer is probably, like we landed on when we weren't doing this exercise, the answer is probably all of them to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're necessarily going to miss on a season-long outlook. I do think it's going to be more heavily Rome shaded early in the season, and then your bar is going to shift a little bit towards the
My bar might become burdensome.
Yeah.
For Rome specifically.
But I'm actually less worried about the foot thing than I was when those comments came out, because we've seen tons of tape on him and he looks absolutely awesome. Not to mention, there was an interview where he said, boy, I kind of misphrased that a little bit and probably raised a bunch of red flags that didn't need to be raised. That probably wasn't the right characterization of what I'm going through. And he looks great. So if this is a new normal looks pretty awesome, and Rome looks awesome. I wouldn't be overly worried about that. I'd be more worried about it from a Ben Johnson schematic standpoint, which has historically run through the power slot wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, Mama's still making dinner tonight, boys. Mama's still making dinner tonight because we're happy still. Jax, do you have one?
I had one, the Omar Cooper one. Right. But I'm gonna say, the other one would be just with Omar would be Eli Stowers. But we're gonna move off the rookies.
Okay.
And I would just say that I'm starting to be afraid I was wrong about, and I've said this so much on Twitter about Parker Washington. It's weird because
I've already jumped ship. I'm on the other side of this one already. Yeah. So keep going.
Well, the bet on this thing is that Parker Washington was only good like this for what? The back half of
about 10 games, about 9 games. Well, with the playoffs, it's like 10, 11 games. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had 2.5 seasons before that where he wasn't that guy. And, it's a hard bet to make. Look, I'm not saying he won't be improved. I'm not saying he reverts back to, 1.1 yards per route run or something, but I just don't know that he's 2.50 either. I think he probably just sort of mutes in there with Thomas Jr. and Jacoby Myers and Strange and the rest of it. I think it's just, even if he leads that, that was my take. But the more that I hear that, and that still sounds like a good way to approach this without being emotional on either side. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just not ready to, I hear so many people he's the clear number one there. And that may be true. And I'm starting to fear that it might be.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Well, that just seems so narrative based. They love him and stuff. It's yeah, I know. I'm sure. But are we,
Yeah, I just want to be clear that in the back part of the season, the last, let's call it 6 games or something, basically when Jacoby Myers showed up, I think that was week 7 or something. His yards per out run was actually well into the 3s, right? So you just quoted a kind of a full season thing, but when they actually shifted, it was in the 3s, and we were in the Puka JSN range in terms of ridiculous dominance. Trav, a few weeks ago, I think it was the Jacob Sanderson episode. You referenced wide receivers that have gone on to, produce after
their fourth season.
Their fourth season, right? And this sounds stupid to say, but one of the names that was on the list was Antonio Brown. And this is a confession. It's a stupid lizard brain thing, but I have not been able to get it out of my head. It's like, is this dude Antonio Brown? Is he like, that's it? Ridiculous comment, ridiculous statement. I'm just saying what's going on in my subconscious. I was like, that if you could pull that list up, I think it's actually pretty fascinating because he was an unheralded 6th round pick. I believe Antonio Brown was also a 6th round pick. Like the parallels were just kind of drawing themselves. Brown obviously was able to play on the outside to the extent that Washington can't. And Brown obviously is, despite his insanity, one of the greatest wide receivers I've ever seen in my lifetime. He had a 6-year run that was Jerry Rice levels of dominance. So I'm not going there, but Washington had a 10-game span where he was at that level of dominance as well. So it seems like he's the guy that's not coming off the field. And I'm upset that I don't have more. I actually traded him away last season before all of this started. And I'm like, I look back at that trade and I was like, ugh, really regret that one. I'd much rather have Parker Washington right now. But, we couldn't have known. You can't beat yourself up over stuff like that. But that's a great one, Jax. And I have already sort of like in redraft leagues this year, I'm going to have Parker Washington. His price has gotten insane. I think I'm still going to have him. But I haven't been able to obtain him in Dynasty because no one's selling.
You want to hear something crazy about Antonio Brown? Because you made me look him up. Because I was like, wait, did he suck his first 2 years? Like, did he do nothing?
He sure did.
It wasn't great.
Did he, though?
He had a couple, if I remember correctly, this is going off the dome. Yeah. In his rookie year, he was like a kick returner, and he was pretty good at that. And then in year 2, he started playing. And then year 3, he basically became dominant.
That's what I thought too.
Well, he had a 1,200-yard season in year 2.
Oh shit! It was that early in his career. Shit.
Year 2.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and he was a 6th round pick, right?
But listen, the first year, 2010, I looked. He only had 257 yards receiving. But here's the stat, right? So out of his however many seasons he played, I just got to look at it real quick, like 12 or something like that. Out of all those seasons,
that wide receiver back then too. Like they had so many good wide receivers.
Listen, he had 3 seasons total where he was below 2.0 yards per route run, just 3. Mm-hmm. And you'd think, oh, maybe it was that first year. Nope, that first year even he was still 2.95 yards per route run.
Mm-hmm. Wow,
even on 257 yards and 21 catches, whatever. Like he was still kind of badass even in that year. And you might go, well, obviously it must have been his final year in Tampa Bay. You know what I mean? I mean, he only had 545 yards. Had to have been that year. Nope, that year he was 2.79 yards per out run. So God bless Antonio Brown. Wow. Like the years that he barely made it was like 1.92s where he had, I mean, it's just he's incredible.
I've had so many arguments with people over the years about the greatness of Antonio Brown, where they're just like not willing to put him anywhere near where his play should have him in like the echelon of wide receivers. He's like very near the top.
Yeah,
he had 5 straight seasons. 5 straight seasons of 1,300 or more yards and 10 or more touchdowns.
That's nuts.
I know. Yeah. He's like, it's like Jamal Charles will never get his due just I don't for reasons unknown. Antonio Brown, we know why he won't get his due, but like, but right. oh my God. I can't say enough about the guy. So that's why I knew it was a ridiculous statement to begin with. Either way, I think Parker Washington is in the hall of dudes we thought sucked, but might be actually good.
For sure, dude. For sure.
Good haul.
Yeah. So that stat, Joe, I found it. I tweeted it out. Since 2006, only 4 wide receivers have been drafted in rounds 5 through 7 and had more than 12 fantasy points per game in their 4th year or later. Antonio Brown, Stephon Diggs, Julian Edelman, Jax, and Tyreek Hill. Antonio Brown did that 7 times after his 4th season. So he's amazing. Okay, boys. I got one.
Puka's going to be on that list.
Yeah, true that. Okay. I am scared, boys. And this is one that I'm very interested in to see what you guys have to say, because we were all very, very, very staunch in our take on this guy. I'm a little bit worried, or maybe just kind of wishing I had a little bit more skin in the Matthew Golden game. And I know that is almost an act of blaspheme, just that I said that on this very show. But the signs are seeming good. And I'm just thinking, if there was like, what lesson would I learn if he does hit? And I'm not necessarily sure I know that yet, but I feel like it would be something by way of, even if you're all the way out on a prospect, think about being in on a good situation. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's actually the take yet, but I don't know, man. I think the hit on Matthew Golden, if he does hit, and this is another question, Jax, what is a hit on Matthew Golden?
Great question.
I think it could be really fun to have on a roster, is all I'm saying.
I think it could be like, 20, like one of the last two Odunze seasons would be a hit for Matthew Golden. So a disappointing Odunze is a hit for Matthew Golden. I am 0 shares, 0 cares, and I am not worried about this one. I think he's destined to be, a ceiling. I actually think that is kind of not his ceiling, obviously, but I think that will be, sort of representative of his ceiling, that he'll get to 700, 800, 900 yards and maybe even double the touchdown some year or something, but basically going to be that type of player, sacrificial X, to use the term.
Yeah, I think the season Alec Pierce just had comes to mind with Matthew Golden. And it was awesome, right? Like Matthew Golden, there's no questioning. There's a lot of good stuff on tape, but there's just something he hasn't put all together yet. And maybe he can, right? Devontae Adams famously didn't get it together until year 3, right? So it's very much possible, not to mention just all the vacated targets in Green Bay between Dobbs, Wicks, Melton, right? So there's tons of opportunity there and a much more consolidated wide receiver room. I just tend to think that a lot more is going to go to the Crafts of the world, the Reeds of the world, and particularly the Watsons of the world. But Watson has not exactly been the model of health, nor has Reed, and Kraft is coming off of an ACL. So he might just be the last guy standing and could have a phenomenal year, and we could all have egg on our face. But the argument against him was always he was not deserving to be a first-round pick. It's kind of like the Jadarian Price thing again, right? Where it's like, I don't know that you should be taking this guy in the first round. I'd feel better about him if he was a second-round pick. It's kind of the same thing. And maybe that's just some sort of fallacy, just false expectations. And now I'm holding it against them. But he wouldn't have been very interesting to me, and our model didn't like him all that much. But he's in the 50-50 range. So it's definitely possible. And I think it's a good one. I've got 1 share and 1 care. So there's that.
Okay, Joe, give us one more and then let's get the fuck out of here.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. All right. This is I've got 2 more, actually, if you don't mind.
One more thing.
No. Two more things. First one is,
let's circle back on this one more time.
The Super Bowl is on Valentine's Day. I've already told my wife this.
Fuck, Joe. I didn't know that.
It's on Valentine's Day. I've already told her, and
dumbass. Super Bowl.
I think it's gonna be cool, and she says she's cool with it, and I think it was smart to let her know ahead of time. But I'm afraid that she's not gonna be cool with it.
Right.
It's gonna get thrown back in my face. Right?
Yeah.
That's what there's no way to do this. It's not my fault. It's the Super Bowl, which is, let's be fair, a bigger holiday than Valentine's Day.
Ravens versus Cowboys, who even cares?
Should we make sure we do some sort of Super Bowl event stream or something like that? So it has to be for the business or something, Joe. So it's like a work thing.
Oh, that's a good idea. We should just make it. I don't know. I think we should maybe take that week off and take our wives out and just do an early Valentine's Day.
Excuse me? My wife doesn't give a fuck about Valentine's Day. I'm good.
Hey, we'll just have our wives do the show in our stead.
That's a good idea. And they should talk shit about us and gorilla dicks and what have you.
They could. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great.
All right. My real one.
Confirm the rumors,
My real one. This one's good. Chargers. Our assumption is basically that Ladd McConkey got nuked last year by Keenan Allen, and that he's going to get back on track of like his elite rookie year production and the direction he was going. And last year we are attributing it to the offensive line, the presence of Keenan Allen, the team kind of just falling apart and whittling away. But there's a part of my brain that says, hey, he actually ran a lot of routes last year and he just wasn't earning targets at a high rate. And we're not excusing it at the college level with guys like Carnell Tate. Why are we excusing it with Ladd McConkey, who, by the way, was also on the field with a bunch of dope players in college and, never hit a dominator, never got a dominator rating, right? So my concern is, are we just really, really wrong about Ladd McConkey? And have we overpriced him? I think he's dope. He's got a lot of the, he gave us, he validated a lot of our priors in his rookie season. We liked him as a prospect, and then year 2 happened and we're excusing away a lot of things. And is that a mistake? I'm really scared because I've started, I have tons of Ladd McConkey, and then I even bought some this off season, kind of in anticipation of this awesome, fun offense, which I feel like process wise is the right play because you want to be part of wagons. And we think he's the best receiver on a wagon team. But what if he's just not as good as we think he is? And what if he's just playing second fiddle like he did his whole college career?
So, Jax, I'm going to kick this one to you pretty quickly, actually, because this was actually, we're kind of talking about circling back, Jax. This is kind of what I was saying kind of at draft season as the one who was maybe a little bit more skeptical on Ladd, was that maybe he is just like a really good role player, but not a guy who's going to command the whole pie year after year after year. And, I'm actually higher now on Ladd than I was then. But honestly, my kind of poking holes wasn't just because I'm racist against whites, boys. It's because I saw some of this stuff that you're saying, Joe, is that like maybe he is just above average and had that really good season to where steaming him up near that top 12 was a little bit lofty. Jax, have you allowed this one to enter your brain?
There's no fading your racism either, so don't try and wiggle out of that.
I'm trying, man. Like I'm gonna get a bad rap out 100%
here. 100% racist, just not in the way that other people think racist is.
Yeah. Hate the whites.
Yeah.
He doesn't even hate the. He's just it's a different kind. It's Canadian. It's different. All right, listen. Is Ladd McConkey just expensive Malik Washington?
Whoa, right? Whoa! I never said that, bro. Jesus,
that is greasy.
That one hurt, didn't it?
Holy,
yeah, that's greasy. No, I mean, there's definitely some concern there for sure. Because here's the other thing too: if he was the guy that we thought he was, he wouldn't have gotten cucked by Keenan Allen completely, right? Like it would have been different. So, yeah, that last season's data point, not a good one. Now, offensive line was terrible. Herbert was banged up. I mean, look, nothing went very well for them, even though they made the playoffs. But Patriots played that team. I mean, they were just like, I was like, man, I almost felt bad for Herbert. Like it was just ugly, and we didn't dominate Seattle like that. You know what I mean? Like, so it was clearly they had some issues that they were contending with. So maybe there's a lot of things that we could throw at that. But yeah, this is a do or die season, Joe, and I have the exact same feeling. I almost put Ladd on my list just to give you some. There you go. So I'm with you. Scared. Hold me.
There's also the factor of like QJ was better than we expected as well. And if we're wrong on QJ, he could be impactful towards Ladd McConkey as well. So I think how this Chargers passing game unfolds is going to be fascinating because I'm heavy in my Oronde Gadsden bags. I could have put him on this list. There's so many other ways we could go, but I think we wrapped up some pretty nice ones, fellas. It was a good.
I'm gonna read you some names real quick before you wrap up.
One more thing, get it?
No, this is it.
No, there's no hate in that whatsoever. Carry on.
You ready? Deontay Johnson, Jamison Williams, Dante Pettis, Nico Collins, Elijah Moore, Laviska Shenault, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Xavier Worthy. Those are the guys that trail right behind Ladd McConkey in the wide receiver model. Just saying. I don't know. Is that like some list that knocks your socks off?
No.
Not really. Now there's some hits there. Yep. But just after where he just barely cracks a threshold where it starts to get a little fuzzy after that. Mm-hmm. So, we shouldn't necessarily feel like this is a can't miss prospect. This isn't JSN, right? Where we were like, no, JSN. Look, if we're wrong about JSN, then the whole world is wrong. Like, what I mean? The whole thing
we don't know what we're doing. Exactly.
Something happened. Something was wrong. Mm-hmm. So that was why we were buying back in on JSN, right? So, it's not exactly that. Is all I'm saying.
For sure. Yeah, boys.
I don't feel better about any of these, just to be clear. I don't feel better.
No. I know. Like I feel
go cry in the pillow.
I feel level on Odunze, but that's about it. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, boys. All this means is that football is almost here. Like we are so close. Enough. It's going to be awesome. Make sure, listeners, you are subscribed to that OTCFFB.com website because it really will make managing your teams way more efficient. And when you're subscribed, there's no limits to the amount of moves you can make, the amount of drafts, the amount of trades, all that jazz cabbage. So please go check it out. That is the best way to support us and show us love. And for Jax Falcone, for Joe Quavius Kubatakis, I am Theon Greyjoy. We will see you next week. Peace.